Vivek is a very successful con man. Like, actually, way smarter than Donald Trump, and is way more business savvy, way more of a capitalist demon, a successful capitalist demon than Donald Trump. Donald Trump has failed upwards his entire life. That's very different. Anyway, so let's get to this fucking cretin. The more I see him, the more I think he's too much of a greasy debate nerd for the Republican Party to like adopt him as a candidate that is better than even Ron DeSantis. I'm not gonna lie, he's too much of a debate lord. I think Trump has a way of dancing around these issues while, you know, dog whistling or bullhorning it, and Ramaswamy doesn't have that. He doesn't have that same charisma. He just comes across like a very annoying, smarmy, like hyper intellectual loser. Okay, let's take a look at this video. I think you will understand. Yeah, we'll talk about Vivek on CNN in a second. First, let's get started on this one. Where the fuck is it? God damn it, I lost it again. Shit. Oh, here it is. Even Cuck Todd kind of rips him a little bit. Let's take a look.
I think there are more race-based violent crimes on the right than on the left. Why is this a little more pervasive, a lot more pervasive on the right?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I think that there's a lot more violence that's also pervasive in parts of the country that supposedly are left-wing voter bases. So I don't think this is a left versus right issue, and I don't think we should try to politicize this through partisan goggles either, Chuck, especially in the wake of a tragedy.
Yeah, let's not get partisan with it, dude. Also, this is a really funny, I mean, it's gross, it's disgusting, but it's also a kind of funny way to cover this where, you know how Trump always does this thing where he'll be like, I shouldn't be arrested for the classified documents thing, okay? Because I have the right to be able to hold classified documents, whereas Joe Biden should be arrested for his classified documents. It's like, it's a situation where there's no consistency unless you think it's okay when I do it, it's not okay when you do it, right? He's doing that exact same thing here where he goes from, I don't think we should politicize this white supremacist shooting into immediately, and we also should definitely politicize the trans shooter in Nashville, which is, you know, really fucking stupid because there is no like trans ideology. That's number one. Like white supremacy is a tangible, understandable ideology that you can associate with. You can see movements behind around it. Being trans is just a state of existence. Okay? Don't say yes, there is. No, playing paradox games is not an ideology. Wearing coder socks and fucking playing Fallout New Vegas sex mods is not a fucking ideology. Okay? Shut the fuck up. Trans people in the chat being like, no, it's an ideology. That's not an ideology. It's a state of existence. Okay? Anyway, as I was saying, so he immediately turns this around and of course, puts the crosshairs on trans people.
Like this one. The fact is there are more black men dying on the south side of Chicago.
Do you ignore the elements that allowed...
He's like, dude, that's not what he asked. He didn't say, like, what's up with the violence? He said, what's up with the racialized violence on the fucking right? It's a very specific question.
This manifesto to spread online, and that what we're, you know, it does feel as if social media connects some of these hateful ideologies.
Well, the fact of the matter is I do think we have two standards that we're even applying if we're having a conversation about manifestos. We still have not yet even seen the manifesto of that transgender shooter in Nashville of a Christian school.
He literally so openly is like, no. Avoid the manifesto that's out right now of this white supremacist shooter who had a swastika on his gun. That's not about ideology. Let's not talk about his ideology. But also, what about the trans shooter that had a manifesto that hasn't been released? It's like, bitch, that's not up to us. We don't have the fucking diary, okay? It's fine. I don't have an issue seeing it, okay? I don't have an issue seeing the trans shooter's diary, okay? I don't care. Like, I would be fine seeing that, okay? But you can't, on the one hand, turn around and be like, where's the manifesto? It's in the hands of law enforcement. What do you mean? What do you mean, where's the manifesto? We know where the fucking manifesto is. It's in the hands of law enforcement. Okay? Take it up with them. It's so weird. Like, what do you think? The FBI's in the pocket of fucking big trans or something? That, one, transness is an ideology in and of itself, and two, the FBI and law enforcement is cooperating with big trans? That is a psychotic whataboutism that doesn't even have any, that doesn't even have anything to stand on. Yeah, big law enforcement, man. Yeah, we got to abolish the police because they're in the pocket of big trans. Anyway, let's continue.
And yet here we're focusing on the motive. So if we want to look at this through a politicized lens, let's look at what the political media and the political establishment is doing differentially in how they analyze different crimes and then create a new narrative around it.
Dude, what are you saying? Like, his deflection also quite literally can be answered with the question itself, okay? How many trans people have done shootings on behalf of what you claim is like transness and being big trans? How many? It's like one versus the majority. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, there is no ideology there that's like, oh, being trans is about like getting a AR-15 and shooting up a school, in the same way that like being a white supremacist, which is an ideology, a very dangerous one, revolves around killing black and brown people. The only difference between the shooter and someone like Ben Shapiro is that he doesn't want to just accelerate the systems, okay? He doesn't want to accelerate the structural forms of oppression that exist every day like Ben does. He wants to put his he wants to put his finger on the scale and just like ram it in to black and brown communities. The shooter takes matters into his own hands because he says, fuck that. They're not helping. It's not enough. It's not enough that that black communities basically are treated as like domestic colonies in this country. It's not enough. I need to take matters into my own hands. That's what the difference is here. Anyway, the one good thing that's come out of this psychosis, however, is that, you know, it's very clear to me that this guy is pathetically unlikable, and he finds himself defending really idiotic points over and over again. It'll look good online. It'll translate well to all of the debate lords online that will turn around and go, yeah, he's our guy. He's our guy. He's doing a great job defending these like edgy positions. Ooh. It's like, yeah, good luck, dude. That doesn't make for a well-oiled national campaign, okay? It just doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work. It doesn't work that way. Chuck Todd to Vivek Ramaswamy, your argument comes across as blaming those that are trying to create equality for a rise in fascism. He does. This part was this part was just so awful.
So, you know, consequence of the so-called anti-racist movements.
Your argument.
He says that an act of white supremacist violence that occurred in Jacksonville happened because of like the minor amount of racial restitution offered in this country. That's why it happened. It's victim blaming. It's victim blaming. What were they wearing? Were they asking for it? That's what this is, okay? He says it straight up. He says it in this interview and in the Dana Bash interview, where he just turns around and says, no, guys, nobody wants this kind of white supremacist action to happen, but it's happening because of the real racism of the Democratic Party. Like affirmative action. That's the reason why it's happening. And it's like, dude, you are not trying to become a new moderator on actual public freakouts, okay? That argument will work in a hyper-isolated, far-right echo chamber. That shit is going to have... You can do that on a fucking far-right Reddit echo chamber. You can't do that on national television. You fucking freak.
It comes across as blaming those that are trying to create equality for the rise in racism.
Well, the fact is, Chuck, I don't want to be playing a blame game. I want to be going...
Yeah, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't want to be playing the blame game, but Lord forgive me because I'm about to play the blame game.
...towards a solution. And I am genuinely worried that those who earnestly espouse the view, I'm going to quote Ibram Kendi from his book directly, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, says the right answer to past discrimination is present discrimination. The right answer to present discrimination is future discrimination. I believe the people who hold that view...
That's awesome. So, for the record, he is right. A chatter also called it. He is right, technically. The problem is you're not supposed to defend that, you fucking idiot. You're supposed to shit on that, okay? Like, that's the issue here. If he were to say, acts of white supremacist violence always come at the heels of like even marginal and oftentimes symbolic restitution afforded to black and brown communities, then he's right. Civil War is a good example, okay? Lynchings in the Reconstruction era and a revitalization of the Klan is another example, okay? White people get up in fucking arms anytime a crumb of civil liberties are afforded or given to black people, okay? So he's not wrong. He's not wrong on that front. The issue is you're not supposed to say that it's the fault of the people offering a modicum of civil liberties to black and brown people. It's the fault that these people are fucking feeling entitled and emboldened to be able to enact such violence and such inhumanity, such cruelty. Okay? That's the problem. He turns the fucking crosshairs back to the institutions that are only symbolically looking to make it seem like they care about black people. That is what's insane to me. That is what is absolutely insane to me. That someone has the actual audacity to go after yet another white supremacist fucking mass shooting. Go on national television and be like, well, you know, it's just, this is going to happen. Yeah. How did you expect the slaver to react when a slave was freed? It's exactly what the take is. I'm surprised that you are just noticing this. What do you mean? Just noticing what? Only thing I'm just noticing is the top of the hour ad break that's coming for you right now. Okay? Now, you might not notice it when it comes for you because you're probably subscribed for $5 or for free with Twitch Prime. Or maybe you got lucky and you got gifted a sub. But if that didn't happen for you, then you will notice a 3-minute ad break right now. I'm running it currently. Okay, let's move on. All right. Did Oliver Anthony respond? No, he did not. Seismo Giraffe and Matt NLT, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Allowing 10 people to no longer see the ads. Okay.
You are earnest about it, but I think they're wrong. And I think that that's actually creating more discrimination and more division in our country. And I think...
Yeah, it's creating more discrimination. That's the problem. It's like, bro, you cannot turn around and lay the finger of blame at the marginal amount of restitution afforded to black people in the immediate aftermath of a fucking white supremacist shooting that happened after, in the state of Florida, things were taken away from black people. For example, the opportunity to learn black history. Okay? So how does that work? I'm not a big action reaction kind of guy, as I literally went through with detail, okay? Meticulously went through with detail all of the many different things that Ron DeSantis has done in the state of Florida and how that more so is going to be a problem later down the line and how it's not like an immediate action and an immediate reaction to said action. These things don't happen like that automatically, okay? But even then, you can't make that argument. The state of Florida is fighting woke. So from your own fucked up morality or from your own fucked up logical box that you have placed yourself inside of. So what is it? Because that Ron DeSantis is not fighting woke hard enough in the state of Florida? Is that what it is? Because it sure seems like he's fighting woke in the state of Florida. And guess what happened? This shit happened. It's not like this happened immediately after Ron DeSantis came out with like affirmative action policies in the state of Florida. It happened after he fucking did the exact opposite. This happened after the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action. And this, of course, once again, makes it seem like you agree with the shooter who also is spiritually harmed by these concepts, affirmative action, or they feel like black people are getting a handout, that they've taken positions in society away from the white man, white men like him. So do you agree with the shooter? Do you agree with what he did? If not, why don't you fucking clarify it? Because it sure seems like you're agreeing with the shooter right now.
And I think that that's actually creating more discrimination and more division in our country.
Wait, is he white? No, Vivek is not white, man. The fucking white supremacist shooter was, though. That's what I'm talking about.
And I think the right answer is actually to restore colorblind equality, colorblind meritocracy, embrace what unites us.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, we got to embrace colorblind meritocracy. Okay. That's what Florida did. So why is that not working? Why did the exact opposite of that happen then?
across our diversity instead of celebrating our skin-deep diverse attributes. That's how I think we reunite this country, Chuck. And it's not blaming anybody else for having a different point of view.
This is also so fucking stupid because it's like, okay, so what's up? Was the antebellum South, chattel slavery era, was that colorblind unity and meritocracy occurring then? You know? Was there no racialized violence back then? Because there certainly wasn't the affirmative action happening back then. There was no affirmative action. Is that the good old days? Is that better? Should we go back to that? Is that, you know? If it's affirmative action that's getting these fucking racist people to engage in such acts of individual violence, okay, then is that the main reason? Is that the main reason chattel slavery happened? Please explain that to me.
But I do think that as a leader, it's my job to articulate exactly how we will unite this country, and that's exactly how I'm going to do it.
Let me move to...
That part is irrelevant. Here he is. Here's another Vivek getting fucking slammed, okay? So he made a comparison to Ayanna Pressley. He said Ayanna Pressley is like literally the Ku Klux Klan, okay? He is out of his fucking mind with these takes, okay? And he doesn't have Trump-level television skills to be able to justify it. He comes across as too much of a debate lord. You know what I mean? And he got owned by Dana Bash, okay?
I ask you about a comment that you made about white supremacy in Iowa on Friday.
I've never once encountered that yet. I'm sure the boogeyman white supremacist exists somewhere in America. I've just never met him. Never seen one. Never met one in my life, right? Maybe I'll meet a unicorn sooner. And maybe those exist too.
So just because somebody hasn't encountered one doesn't mean that the notion of white supremacy doesn't exist as a threat in America. What do you think goes through the minds of the families of the 3 victims in yesterday's shooting when they hear?
I've never seen a white supremacist that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Yeah, like I've never seen LeBron James so in person in the real world. So doesn't exist to me. He's actually made up. He's a hologram. No human being could have that level of grace and athleticism trapped in a 6'8" body. Can't happen. So don't believe it.
You say that white supremacy is...
Also, I don't even believe that he's never seen a fucking white supremacist. He's been campaigning as a Republican, okay? The fuck do you mean you've never seen white supremacy? Yeah, he can't even do the no object permanence thing because he's in a fucking room where there's probably white supremacists. Like, the fuck are you talking about, man? Even the, like, no object permanence shit doesn't work here because you're in a room full of them, okay?
Is basically a fantasy.
I'm sure they're grieving for their loss, and I don't want to politicize those victims. Dana, this is a very sensitive situation where we should have nothing but foremost respect for those victims and not bring them into partisan politics. But
yeah, dude, totally. Yeah, you should ask those victims. You know, you should ask the victims' families what they think about white supremacy and whether or not you are the one who's currently politicizing it in the opposite direction and not in the direction that honors what happened to them. You know what I mean? It's crazy. They're so obviously just like, first of all, they rush immediately to politicize everything. This idea of like, oh, let's not politicize this disaster is bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. We've moved beyond this, okay?
Them into partisan politics. But I was responding to a question where someone asked me, what racism have I experienced in recent years? And I answered honestly, most of that racism has come from the modern left. It's happening.
Yeah, the backtracking into like a more moderate position doesn't work in the real world, okay? Like the coming out of the gate swinging with the fucking psychotic take only to like backtrack it into like a more moderate position is just not going to work. I mean, I know that. I'm a media guy who's most famous for saying America deserved 9/11, okay? Let me explain to you. Those who care enough to understand the truth behind your sentiment are going to seek it, but the overwhelming majority of people are just going to hear America deserved 9/11 and move on. They're going to be like, Hasan? This guy's a fucking communist, terrorist, Al-Qaeda supporter. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, he's not even interested in having a real, more moderate conversation. That much is very obvious in the way that he's dancing around it.
You took it to another level on Friday. In addition to the comment we played, you took issue with comments from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She reportedly said, quote, "We don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice." About that, you said, "These are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK."
Yeah, like, it's insane. It's an insane take. It's absolutely a nutty take, okay? One thing I will say, a white person oftentimes can get away with saying that. A brown person going to get a lot more scrutiny. Vivek's big problem here is that he thinks he's fucking white. Brother, you are not white, okay? You're not white. You say that shit, there's going to be way more scrutiny coming at you, okay? People like Dana Bash are going to make fucking cookie dough out of you, okay? Donald Trump says shit like that on a daily fucking basis because he has, one, he's white, and he's the great white hope. He's the savior of all whites. He's white man's Barack Obama, okay? But also, he's more telegenic. He doesn't get into, like, the loser, like, debate shit. You know what I mean? He's just, like, punchy. Bro, just watch the chat. People are going to hit you with the "you are also not white." I mean, I don't give a shit.
You know, I'm sure the KKK was responsible.
A white person would never get to say that without backlash? No, of course there would be backlash. What are you, fucking silly? That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, can you overcome the backlash? Hello? Because right now, Big Homie is not overcoming the backlash. He's not. Not doing a great job. Anyway.
For more than a century's worth of horrific lynchings, rapes, murders of black people. How in any way are the views you're talking about comparable to the views?
Did you just backtrack your take just like Vivek did? What part of my take did I just backtrack? Explain in clear terms. I mean, yeah, what am I doing? This is like definitely bait. Okay,
and
let's
atrocities committed by the KKK.
What I said is the Grand Wizards of the KKK would be proud of what they would hear her say, because there's nothing more racist than saying that your skin color predicts something about the content of your viewpoints.
You didn't just say they would be proud. You said these are the words of the modern.
Yeah, she goes, nope, that's not what you said. Here's what you said.
Wizards of the modern KKK.
It is the same spirit. You're right about that, Dana. I think it is the same spirit to say that I can look at you and based on just your skin color, that I know something about the content of your character.
Yeah, he goes a little bit into it.
You said on Friday that a man-made climate change has existed as long as man.
Wait, I want to see the full clip. Do we have it on the playlist? Let me see. Oh, we don't have it on the playlist. Oh, here it is.
Joining me now is
shooter in a Christian school, killing 6, longing for purpose and meaning in this country. I think it is just a shame that we even have mass shootings like this, be it the one that happened in Florida, be it the recent one, the Nashville shooter in a Christian school, killing 6 in a school.
Bro, a trans person going into a fucking school, a Christian school, okay, and engaging in yet another fucking school shooting is not the same as like the 7th or however many fucking very clearly targeted white supremacist acts of violence on black communities, okay? There is no like targeted racialized violence or ideological violence enacted towards Christian people. Like, that's not a real fucking thing in the United States of America, at least, okay? We're not talking about like ISIS-run territory in fucking Syria or some shit. It's not happening. It's not a thing. No matter how hard Christians feel like when they go to Starbucks and they'll say fucking Merry Christmas, it's not the same thing, okay? Ridiculous. Do you think he actually believes the shit he's saying? No. Vivek does not believe a single fucking thing he says. He does not believe a single thing he says. Guys, here, let me give you some background on Vivek Ramaswamy. populist entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. How did he get rich? Well, one, he already had a couple million by the time he got to law school, and yet he still got a George Soros scholarship to go to law school. That's number one. So it starts all the way back then. Okay? Here's how he got rich, though. He found a biotech firm with a hedge fund and venture capital dollars. He then bought a patent for an Alzheimer's drug that had failed 4 trials, raised more money to try and take that to the market, and then he took the company public. He cashed out. The drug failed its 5th trial, and the investors wiped out. He is literally a con man. Okay? Straight up. He's a classic fucking Silicon Valley tech con man. No, that's not like Trump 3.0. No, Trump has always failed upward in like very, if you make a Trump comparison here, you are missing a major difference. Donald Trump is also a con man, but he is a likable television personality who also is a con man, but he's a con man in a way that like a lot of Americans kind of understand and kind of like give a lot of outs to. You know, he's a rich kid. He failed upwards in the real estate business. That's very different. That's a very different kind of demon. That kind of demon is very different than like the Elon Musk style entrepreneurs. The Silicon Valley tech CEOs. Okay? The Silicon Valley tech CEO guy is a very different kind of demon that a lot of Americans do not understand, do not recognize, and can't see beyond like, oh, that's bad. Okay? Vivek is a very successful con man. Vivek is like actually way smarter than Donald Trump and is way more business savvy and therefore way more of a capitalist demon, a successful capitalist demon than Donald Trump. Donald Trump has fucked up the bag and failed upwards his entire life. That's very different. He's been carried by his parents. He's been carried by his father, who kept dumping more funds into him. That's very, very different than Vivek Ramaswamy, who is like a very good, cunning, shrewd, and demon-like businessman. Okay? What do you mean by failed upwards? I mean, just look up how Donald Trump got bankrupt like 7 times. Every single venture that he's dipped his toes into has been a failure, from Trump Steaks to Trump University to literally a fucking casino. How do you fuck up the bag with a casino? Like, that's what I mean. Vivek, on the other hand, he's always doing like rug pulls and shit like that. Okay? Because when you have a certain amount of money chatter, you basically can't go broke unless you're a fucking idiot. Yeah, with Donald Trump, the reason why he's still seen as like a wealthy person is because his family has owned assets and he has kept owning said assets and using said assets in real estate as depreciating assets to avoid paying taxes. And that's it. You sit on fucking real estate, it's going to keep giving you more net worth no matter what. That's it. That's the difference. Donald Trump doesn't have to do shit for the rest of his fucking life and never had to. Anyway, Donald Trump also played a wealthy person on TV. That was a huge deal for him and his likability. And the reason why people found, like, the reason why he was in a shit ton, like referenced in a shit ton of popular culture, whether it be rap music, for example. Like, this is the type of shit that most people don't understand. Like, rappers have been talking about Donald Trump for years, okay? Part of that, to me, signifies how much the Trump brand and the Trump image was already perfectly crafted in the black community. The reason why was because his show, The Apprentice, was, at the time, one of the most diverse shows on television. Okay? I don't think a lot of people understand that. The Apprentice was a very diverse show with a very diverse cast and had a tremendous amount of support from black and brown audiences. That is branding that you have meticulously and carefully cultivated over the course of multiple decades. You can't just like pop out of nowhere, okay? And you can't do this as a white guy either, for the record. You certainly can't do it as a brown guy. But you can't even do this as a white guy. If this worked, Blake Masters would be the Arizona senator. Okay? Because Vivek is basically Blake Masters, but also on top of that, he's playing with a handicap in the field because he's also brown. And his last name is Ramaswamy. So if people were grossed out by fucking Blake Masters, Vivek looking at that and like maybe dialing back the school shooter style, like that Blake was putting out there, the school shooter vibes that he was putting out there, Vivek dialed that part back, but he's still just as sweaty and as nerdy as a debate lord as Blake Masters is. He's not going anywhere.
We have to address that mental health epidemic, and we need leaders with the courage to do it. But my heart goes out to those families, and I hope something like this never happens again.
Mental health is one aspect of these shootings, and apparently, and we're still learning a lot about what happened. The facts are still coming out. Also, this was very much apparently racially motivated. The sheriff there said point blank that this shooter had manifestos coming, 3 manifestos, and said specifically that he went to this dollar store with the intent of killing black people.
I think that is heinous and deserves to be called out for what it is. The reality is we've created such a racialized culture in this country in the last several years that right as the last few burning embers of racism were burning out, we have a culture in this country largely created by media and establishment and universities and politicians that throw kerosene on that racism. And I can think of no better way to fuel racism in this country than to take something away from other people on the basis of their skin color. I've been saying that for years. And
yeah, so that's why it happened? That's why this happened in Florida. Because affirmative action or something, right? Like, what a stupid fucking argument, dude. Plays a role. He's not wrong. Bro said we were so close to solving racism, and then we started talking about it too much. Yeah, guys. Chattel slavery, one of the most horrific continued acts of racial subjugation and violence, happened because everyone was talking about race too much. That's what it was. Ramaswamy's right. When black people were stolen, okay, and sold off like cattle, that was because they were talking so much about race. You know what I mean? That's what it was. That's why chattel slavery happened. Famously, people don't understand that. You know what I mean? Jim Crow laws implemented in the South, also because people were constantly talking about race. Okay? KKK, they just hated people talking about race. It's additionally weird to be like, affirmative action is causing this kind of racial violence in the heels of affirmative action being eviscerated by the Supreme Court. The fuck? What are you saying? It literally doesn't even fucking exist. What are you talking about? Like what? Like it doesn't even have to make sense anymore, I guess.
And I think that is driving, sadly, a new wave of anti-black and anti-Hispanic racism in this country. I think the right way forward is if we want to stop hate and discrimination on the basis of...
Bro, just look at the races from the most racist town in America. His favorite president is Obama because he made it racial. Yeah.
Race. Let's stop discriminating on the basis of race and see what unites us as Americans, because I do not...
Bro, these kinds of fucking takes maybe work on the Republican podium when you're not immediately coming across like you are defending another white supremacist act of violence. Millions of black people abducted and forced to march to their death and be separated from their families and raped by enslavers. Yeah, but that was because they were talking about race, Puerto Rican vegan socialists. That's what Vivek thinks. He thinks that this is a legacy of just talking too much about race. That's why it happened. Hey, India, remember when you were colonized? That's because you were constantly talking about, I guess, like, the caste system or something. I don't know. That's why it happened.
I think this kind of racial division and any division is good for us as the United States.
I believe that there are a lot of people of color in this country who don't think it was just lasting embers of racism, but that a lot more work had to be done, particularly given the history of the systemic racism in this country with slavery and beyond. I want to ask you about a comment that you made about white supremacy in Iowa on Friday.
I've never once encountered that yet. I'm sure the boogeyman white supremacist exists somewhere in America. I've just never met him. Never seen one. Never met one in my life, right? Maybe I'll meet a unicorn sooner. And
dude, that's an insane take, brother. That's so funny. No, it's just that's so ridiculous, dude. He's just never, dude. What do you mean? Like, I've never seen a white supremacist guy. Like, even fucking Tim Ryan doesn't say that, or Tim Scott. I keep calling him Tim Ryan. God, he's such a fucking loser. Like, even he has like stories about how, like, well, this is a real white supremacist I've encountered, whereas Donald Trump is not one. You know what I mean? Like, like he just went beyond. He's just like, no, actually, even individual white supremacists don't exist, which is kind of ridiculous because the most racist motherfuckers who are in the media, in the conservative media circles, even they admit, like, no, it's about individual acts of racism. It's not systemic, right? This is 10 crack commandments. God is real. There are two genders, I assume. That's the second one. Human flourishing requires fossil fuels. Reverse racism is the real racism. Wait, what is this 10 crack commandments, dude? Let me see. Isn't this like, I'm not going to lie.
All right, back to democracy.
If I'm an Indian guy who is not a Christian, who also is not like, if I'm an Indian guy who's visibly not like a white Christian Protestant, I wouldn't invoke the 10 commandments, especially by changing the 10 commandments. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, because like, to me, I feel like that's a bit of a misstep, because then people are gonna be like, wait a minute, this brown guy's telling me about 10 commandments. I mean, this is good, but like, we got 10 commandments. Anyway, 1, God is real. 2, there are 2 genders. 3, human flourishing requires 2, there are 2 genders. Like, that's the second one. That's how important it is. Which God, Vivek? Which God is this Satan worshiper talking about? Human flourishing requires fossil fuels. That's the third one. Dude, they keep getting better. Reverse racism is racism. Then just call it racism. Why are you calling it reverse racism? Why are you calling it a different thing? Just say racism is bad. If reverse racism is just racism, people will understand that, no? Oh, wait, you get fucking booed out of rooms if you said that. Anyway, number 5, an open border is no border. Number 6, okay, they start getting more boring. Parents determine the education of their children. Number 7, nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. Number 8, capitalism lifts people up from poverty. There are 3 branches of U.S. government, not 4. What? The U.S. Constitution is the strongest guarantor of freedoms in history. What does he mean? He means the IRS? No, I think he's talking about the media, the fourth estate. Do we really put climate grifter Alec Epstein line? Human flourishing requires fossil fuels. Mr. Everyone is saying their rehearsed lines, can't even make up his own commandments. I mean, he is also a big plagiarizer, as you guys know. He plagiarized Obama, dude. When you plagiarize so fucking much, you end up plagiarizing from Obama, like, you got to dial it back a little bit, brother. You know what I mean?
Maybe those exist too.
So just because somebody hasn't encountered one doesn't mean that the notion of white supremacy doesn't exist as a threat in America. What do you think goes through the minds of the families of the 3 victims in yesterday's shooting when they hear you say that white supremacy is basically a fantasy?
I gotta pee. I've been drinking a lot of water.
I'm sure they're grieving for their loss, and I don't want to politicize those victims. Dana, this is a very sensitive situation where we should have nothing but foremost respect for those victims and not bring them into partisan politics. But I was responding to a question where someone asked me, what racism have I experienced in recent years? And I answered honestly. Most of that racism has come from the modern left. It's happening during the course of this campaign. Kara Swisher calling me Ramaswamy the other day and reveling in making twists of my last name. People effectively reducing me to the color of my skin and my attributes. That comes today from the modern left. But the reality is,
do you
this is
acknowledge,
part of
though,
a
that
dogma
white
in this country.
supremacy does still exist in the United States?
I acknowledge that all forms of racial animus exist in the United States, including fringe branches. I mean, that's clearly what was at the head of this mentally deranged individual responsible for this shooting, yes. But I think there are many forms of mental derangement that cause us to see one another on the basis of our skin color and our attributes. And I think what we need to revive, Dana, and it's my job as the leader, hopefully as the next president, to do this, to revive our doctrine of e pluribus unum, not just celebrating our diversity and our skin-deep attributes, but celebrating what unites us across that diversity. That's what we've forgotten in the United States of America. Our true strength is the set of ideals that unite us. That's my job to revive as our next president.
I love this take because he's like head trauma Swami. That's funny. I love this because he goes, racism, I've never met a white supremacist, except all the Democrats are white supremacists. They're the racist ones. It's like, racism doesn't exist, but if it were to exist, it would only exist in the Democratic Party. Like, how? What do you mean? You just said you've never met a white supremacist, then you said Democrats are the white supremacists. It's so stupid. Like, it's just so dumb. Also, for the people that said head trauma Swami, let's be real. This motherfucker's got a big ass dome, okay? Like, he's the one who's giving head trauma to other motherfuckers, okay? Yeah, he literally said he never experienced racism, but he experienced racism from the left. Like, what are you saying right now? What's happening here? He's just doing word salad, not realizing that's rich coming from you. Okay, listen. Shut the fuck up, okay? My head is normal sized. He doesn't deserve this his hairline. What do you mean? His hairline is awful, dude. He's got the Vegeta hairline. What are you talking about? This is the closest we have gotten to a real Vegeta hairline in media ever.
And I think that the next generation in particular is so starved for that, starved for commonality, starved for a nation that is unified, bigger than the sum of its parts. That's what we need to recreate in this country. And to those who say the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, I say no. The right remedy is actually abandoning all discrimination and moving forward with colorblind meritocracy in the United States of America.
You took it to another level on Friday. In addition to the comment we played, you took issue with comments from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She reportedly said, quote, "We don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice." About that, you said, "These are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern."
That part is banger. Okay, like it's such a funny take because it's the classic, like, you know who does this a lot? Black conservatives. Okay, black conservatives, black Republicans specifically, love talking about how, like, white supremacy is, like, kind of fake. They don't take it as far as Vivek does because Vivek isn't black. So obviously he takes it to the degree that, like, racist white people will take it. Because, like, black conservatives still will be like, yeah, white supremacy is real. Okay? It's just that, like, it's overblown and, like, black people need to pick their pants up or some shit. You know, they just, like, repeat some of the lines. Vivek, on the other hand, is taking it to the degree of, like, taking it to a degree where, like, white people who are just objectively racist, they to that degree. But it's pretty funny because, like, you hear it from black conservatives who are defending instruments of power that are white supremacists in nature, right? They will always say, racism is greatly overblown. Also, the real racism is when other black people say that I'm defending white supremacy. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, oh, that's the real racism, is when people have individually spoken out against you for doing the thing that you're doing right now. Like, that's the only real racism in America. Got it. Okay, thanks. No shot, that's a take. Literally, Hodge twins, Candace Owens, any black conservative grifter they routinely talk about how the only racism that they've ever experienced comes from people telling them to shut the fuck up and that they are defending white supremacy. Any quote? Why you got to do this to me? I've probably debated more black conservatives than most content creators out there. What are we talking about? On television, at least. Okay? Quote here, Larry Elder. I don't know what, he literally recently said it. Like, his campaign hinges on this, actually. Call him. Larry Elder says he's not a face of white supremacy. His fans make it hard to believe. This is the older when he actually went on the gubernatorial run, when he said he's not the black face of white supremacy. Candace Owens at CPAC. Racism is over because I've never been a slave. Also, Candace literally sued her university for racial discrimination, but yeah, racism isn't real. No, not university. Candace Owens sued her school, the Connecticut Board of Education, for being victim to racialized hate that caused her to develop an eating disorder. And she successfully sued the Connecticut Board of Education. You called it first. Laura Loomer said that Marjorie Taylor Greene can use her MyPillow code so she can get herself a nice pillow for her niece to place under Kevin McCarthy's desk. That's awesome. The girls are fighting. The girlies are fighting. It's actually a good burn. It's my burn. I can't believe she's fucking plagiarizing me.
KKK. You know, I'm sure, the KKK was responsible for more than a century's worth of horrific lynchings, rapes, murders of black people. How in any way are the views you're talking about comparable to the views and atrocities committed by the KKK?
It's always great when they're like, racism doesn't exist, but also the real racism, like the Klan, is not even in the Klan itself, but is actually a black woman who's saying that, brown people should defend brown interests rather than white supremacy. The real racism is when you correctly... The real racism only happens in America, not at the hands of the Klan. But the real Klan itself is actually a black woman who said, hey, I don't know if you know this, but you're a brown guy. And also you are defending the interests of white supremacists who do not see you as white. The Klan raped black people. Okay, let me explain something to you, my friend. This is going to be very interesting for you to comprehend. One, the answer is yes. And two, why do you think here in the United States of America, black Americans have lighter skin color, skin tone, and also, and that is not, like, we're talking pre-miscegenation, okay? Like making it legal to race mix. Okay? Why did that happen, you think? How did that happen, you think? By the way, this is literally why you gotta fucking, educate people on actual violence. Actual violence that black people were subjected to in this country and its history. I genuine asking, I know nothing about them. Them being, oh, you mean the Klan, I hope. This chatter only watch PragerU videos. Yes. The Klan is an extension of white slavers, and white slavers, also the Klan, absolutely engaged in rape as a tactic, as a form of racial subjugation, of terror, of control. All right. Anyway, this person is probably not an American, though. Let's be real, from the way that he's writing in here.
What I said is the Grand Wizards of the KKK would be proud of what they would hear her say, because there's nothing more racist.
Yeah, the KKK and the Grand Wizard loves when black women speak out. That's like, they're famously fond of that sort of thing.
Than saying that your skin color predicts something about the content of your viewpoints
you
or
didn't
your
just say
ideas.
they would be proud. You said these are the words of the modern Grand Wizards of the modern KKK.
It is the same spirit. You're right about that, Dana. I think it is the same spirit to say that I can look at you and based on just your skin color, that I know something about the content of your character, that I know something about the content of the viewpoints you're allowed to express. For Ayanna Pressley to tell me that because of my skin color, I can't express my views, that is wrong. It is divisive. It is driving hate in this country. This is dividing our country to a breaking point.
That is a debate that is based on nonviolent discussion. That you just said you're using rhetoric, which she said she's using rhetoric. That's one thing. And another thing is to say that she represents and she is a modern version of a KKK, which, as you know, was dedicated to the subjugation and violence against black people. How on earth is she a modern grand wizard of that kind of organization?
Let's be intellectually honest and get to the heart of what this debate ought to be about. There is a worldview that says that the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, that if you're black or brown, you have to have a particular point of view. That's from Ibram Kendi. That's from Ayanna Pressley, the people I quoted in my speech yesterday.
But can you have an intellectually honest conversation when you accuse her of being
You can't say, I want to have an intellectually honest conversation while simultaneously being like, calling me out for defending white supremacy is what the KKK would do to like a black woman too. Like, it's just, where's the intellectual honesty? You have given the game away that you are not dedicated to intellectual honesty in any way. Now, we already know that shit. We already know that. Why? Because there's a lot of debate perverts on this platform, and a lot of them have been fucking banned in this community. Because this is typical 4chan loser shit, where it's like, I'm just trying to have an intellectually honest conversation. Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, definitely. Problem is, you can't do this shit, okay? You can't, like, you can't go on CNN and be like, oh, it's just because I wanted an intellectually honest conversation. Just fucking, just be like, yeah, I said it because it's real, okay? That's the based position that you're supposed to be on. Except you can't say that while you're simultaneously running a national campaign because you think you're gonna, you can't run on the Republican primaries and do that. You know what I mean? You can't do the just curious. Do you think the host is doing a good job pushing back? Yes.
Grand wizard
Let's
of the KKK.
Debate.
Can you have that intellectually honest discussion with that kind of rhetoric?
Yes, I can, Dana, because the point I'm highlighting is that even the people who in good spirit, we all agree.
What? She's doing a terrible job? What do you want her to do? I think she's doing a great job staying on message. He's trying to deflect away. She's bringing it back. She says, no. Can you have an intellectually honest discussion when you tell your interlocutor that their statements are akin to the exact opposite thing? Like, you are being dishonest. Larry Elder says racial epithets were yelled during egg attack, calls out liberal silence. No, this isn't what I was talking about. Larry Elder has he went from saying like a black face of white supremacy to making that his campaign message, not the egg attack. He basically made it a fundamental plank of his campaign.
That the KKK was an awful organization that is a toxic stain in our national history. So given that we can start from that point of agreement, now that allows us to say, well, who actually sounds more like that organization today? The people who are calling for more racial discrimination on the basis of skin color. So yes, I think that is an intellectually useful starting point for a provocative discussion that we need to have in this country.
The whole point is the KKK wasn't just about rhetoric.
We have to speak openly.
They lynched people, they murdered people, they raped people, they burned their homes.
And that was wrong.
Simply
that was obviously wrong.
Wrong. Okay, again,
that is obviously a wrong thing.
If you want to have an intellectual discussion, do you think that maybe comparing her to the Grand Wizard and the notion of what she said to being a modern leader of the KKK was maybe a step too far, or you stand by what you said?
I stand by what I said to provoke an open and honest discussion in this country, because there is a gap, Dana, between what people will say in private today and what they will say in public. I think we need to close that gap. I think we need to have...
Yeah. Everyone is too scared to be racist on Maine, says Vivek. Coming right off the heels of another white supremacist act of violence. That's so funny. Yeah, we got to be mask off racist, Dana. I hate that. Me, when I dropped the worst take of all time, I did this to provoke a discussion. Yeah, this is like, this is literally, it's all debate lord shit, dude. It is such a fucking, it's such a fucking classic, whiny, sweaty debate lord loser take where it's like, oh, I was just being edgy so that we can have an honest discussion later down the line. It's like, no, you were just fucking being edgy because you think you will get a lot of prominence doing that. His take is literally intellectually dishonest. Exactly. Do you think he's becoming the front runner? No. It's so silly. It's so sweaty. It's so grimy. It's like, oh yeah, I'm saying this because I want to have a, I think we shouldn't be afraid to be fucking racist on Maine. Is that what it is? Like, it's such a classic cowardly fucking perspective. Anyway.
Have real, open, honest, raw conversation as Americans. That is our path to national unity. And there are many Americans today who are deeply frustrated by the new culture of anti-racism that's really racism in new clothing. And we need to have that debate in the open. Dana, I think that you're doing, with due respect, what many in the media do, picking on some fringe comment in...
Wait. So is a fringe comment? I don't get it. Is it a fringe comment? What's happening?
The context of a broader context that I was offering it in a speech.
All right, so you just said that your comment was fringe.
Let's have the courage to confront the meat of...
Oh, so it is a fringe comment. Got it. Okay. So it's a silly comment. Wait. You can't... It's so weird, like, oh, I just meant like, she resembles the Klan, okay? I said she resembles the Klan to invoke broader intellectual conversations about how, she resembles the Klan, okay, for saying that I am a defender of white supremacy. But also, you then followed up by saying people are too afraid to have their honest opinions come out in public. And nobody wants to shine a light on my genuine racism, okay? And then you said, oh, it was just a fringe comment. He's hitting literally every fucking angle he can. You tackled the issue from like 3 completely different fronts, some of which are contradictory inherently.
I'm saying you drew a fringe comment from a much longer speech. I described you picking one fringe comment from a long speech that I gave to duck debate from the real issue that I think you don't want to have, Dana, because I think you probably agree with me on this, that this is toxic
I think
rhetoric
that this debate
from leading politicians.
Yeah, you agree with me. Ayanna Pressley is a Klansman. Come on, please. Everyone's just as racist as me, please.
I think that this debate
dividing us on the basis of race, and I want to have the open debate. I think this debate
is fascinating and interesting and opening and important. What I did was
I do too.
Explain to our viewers that you were asked a question and you took it to a point where you called a sitting member of Congress who is black, who was having discussions about race, calling her the modern grand wizard of the KKK. And I'm just not.
Yeah. Do you think the Republicans will now avoid the race discussion and double down on the transphobia she's cooking him? Yeah. No, they'll why not both? They'll always do the race thing because racial agitative propaganda is their bread and butter, chat. White supremacy, like, you know how I talked about misogyny is like a rocket ship for your own career? Like Andrew Tate rode that to so much prominence, mainstream prominence. White supremacy is similar to that, especially on a broader stage, especially if you don't actually say you're a white supremacist, but you keep leaning on white supremacist institutions as though they are infallible and doing the right thing, or demand more of that racial violence that they dish out. You can really get a lot of broad support off of that.